we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Career Accelerator lecture series. And this series was started in fall of 2020 by the Engineering Advisory Board, School of Engineering Advisory Board, as an effort to help you learn about some of those skills, some of those attributes that can benefit you as you go into your career beyond just the technical skills that you develop in our engineering curriculum. So, and the board has been very generous in giving up their time to share the experiences that they've had. And today we've got Timothy McFerrin.
Just Tim.
Just Tim. Tim McFerrin is here with us to share his experiences. Tim is the owner and president of the Myers-Aubrey Company, founded in 1929. Myers-Aubrey is headquartered in Tulsa and has numerous branch offices located throughout the Midwest. They are a manufacturer's representative and service corporation supplying the energy industry and others with engineered equipment and maintenance services. Tim is originally from Coffeyville. He graduated from KU in 1989 with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering and went to work for Myers-Aubrey upon graduation. And after working in the Tulsa, Kansas City, and Dallas offices for Myers-Aubrey, he returned to Tulsa in 2007 and has been president since 2012. He's involved in a number of civic institutions and initiatives, and is a board member and director of Warburton Capital Management as well as Airwise Solutions, both headquartered in Tulsa. He enjoys a number of extracurricular activities: golf, snow skiing, attending KU sporting events, which were very exciting this week. We're excited about that. So Tim and his wife Cynthia have been married for 28 years and are the proud parents of twin boys, Andrew and Ian, who are here with us as fellow Jayhawks. So with that...
Fifth generation Jayhawks, by the way.
That's outstanding. So with that, Tim will give his presentation. When he's done, we've got opportunity for questions. We've also got snacks in the back. So with that, Tim.
Thank you very much, Bob. So, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you all being here. I know it's been a crazy week so far. We just got back, my wife and I just got back from New Orleans last night, so we were actually down at the game. What a great time that was. Truth told, I'm going to read this first paragraph. I wrote this paragraph when I wrote this speech about a week and a half ago, maybe a week ago. And I was this confident. The way I wrote it is, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be back at KU. Privileged to speak to all of you. What a great time to be a Jayhawk. Winning the national championship in basketball and beating North Carolina will be something you will always remember. My senior year, 1988, we beat Oklahoma with Danny and the Miracles, and it was an amazing time. It is a highlight of college. You will all remember what you were doing Monday night when we won that national championship game. Hopefully it's not the last one we see here. Hopefully it's not 14 years, I guess it was, since 08. So it was a lot of fun. And I know you all are having a great time with it, and you should. So I'm just sorry they didn't cancel class. I don't get that. But Dean, why? Not to put you on the spot. So first of all, I want to thank Dean Aga, Bob Parsons, Amy Wehrman, back in the back. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I've been on Dean Aga's advisory board for many years now, and I've really enjoyed being a part of that board as well as being able to do things like this. I think this Career Accelerator program is a wonderful idea, and I'm really happy to be here and give my contribution today. I want everyone here to know that I could give this presentation to every student at the University of Kansas, and probably most adults. Don't be offended if you think I'm picking on you as an engineer. I'm an engineer, obviously. I've been around a lot of engineers. I know some of the tendencies, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. But don't get offended. I'm not going to have a death by PowerPoint either. No PowerPoint presentation today, so you probably see plenty of those. You just get to hear me talk. So I went to work in 1989 straight out of college from the university. Went to work for Myers-Aubrey Company. 33 years later, I'm still with the same company. I know that sounds foreign to most people, and it is, but it's a company that I went to work for, and it has been a great ride. We sell engineered equipment to a variety of different industries and customers, oil and gas, petrochemical, aerospace, chemical, food and beverage, EPCs. We do business with companies like Koch Industries, Anheuser-Busch, Black & Veatch, Burns & Mac, Kiewit, SpaceX, many other companies. There's too many to name. We supply product and services globally. And when people ask my wife what I do, it's kind of hard to explain. She tells people, I make things not blow up. It's a good thing, good thing. So like I said, I went to work for Myers Aubrey in 1989. I was hired by the president of the company, who was a KU engineering alum from 1971. Believe it or not, I still, like I said, I work for the same company today. The only difference now is that I worked my way up and I own the company now. It's provided a wonderful career, and I've been able to take care of my family. And you know, it's been an amazing ride. And I'm very proud that my twin boys attend the KU presently, one in the engineering school and one in the business school. When I get back here on campus, I feel like I should be in college again, even though it was a long time ago. I wish I was. So in 33 years at Myers Aubrey, I've learned quite a bit about people, and in particular, engineers. We exclusively hire engineers for our customer-facing positions, as it gives us, I think, the extra credibility when dealing with technical customers. That said, the engineers that I hire are perhaps not your typical engineers. I don't mean the different types of degree programs like electrical or mechanical, but more their ability to act not like a stereotyped engineer. So you might think to yourself, what do I mean by that? So I got a question for you all. What are the first things that come to mind when you think of an engineer? What personality traits? Okay. What else?
Functionality over aesthetics.
Okay.
Really smart.
Really smart. What else? A little bit of antisocial maybe? I mean, introverted kind of is that. I mean, these are stereotypes. Geeky, messy, not organized. You know, there's a lot of things. And yes, there are, and that can be said about people in general. But when people think of engineers, when non-engineers think of engineers, they usually tend to think about they're really smart people that don't have a lot of social awareness. And again, it's not true. I know it's not. So I always go back to my favorite engineer joke of all time. And I'll ask you this question. What is the difference between an introverted and an extroverted engineer? An introverted engineer looks at his own shoes while he's talking to you, and an extroverted looks at your shoes while he's talking to you. And I think that is, that kind of sums it up in a lot of ways. Do you know that person? Maybe it is you. It's not a problem. I promise you I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. Not everyone has social skills that are on full display all the time. What I want to do today is perhaps help people overcome some of these stereotypes so it makes you a more desirable person that an employer may want to hire or promote in the future. At the end of the day, every one of you in this room and on the virtual call are talented academically. You wouldn't be here if you wouldn't be an engineer, an engineering student, if you were not intelligent. There's no doubt about it. That is a fact. My guess is that most of you in this room today and on the call probably tend towards not being that stereotyped engineer. I'm just guessing that you don't. You show up for things like this. This is a great opportunity to come hear people speak. You want to advance yourself. You want to improve yourself. for whatever someone's speaking about. There also may be people that their best friends are their calculator or computer. Back when I was in school, you used to see, my boys make fun of me because I still use my HP 41CX computer. Do you know what that is? Does anyone know what that is? They make an app for that now. I still use it. Back in when I was in college, it was actually a calculator. It was in a case, and people would wear it on their belt. They would literally wear this thing on their belt. And you're like, oh my gosh, don't go up on campus looking like that. No, I am calling someone. Got it turned off. I don't care what type of engineer or person you are. Each of you has something individually to offer. What my goal today is to perhaps give you some life lessons that you can choose to use and apply if you want. And in the end, if you do some of these things, it will make you a more complete person, a more complete engineer, and by extension, more desirable for employers and really people in general. As an employer, I do see plenty of resumes. Some are better than others. I'm not going to go into today what specifics that are. There are plenty of resources out there to help you with developing and writing a great resume. The fact is, you need a good resume, and you should keep that as a living, breathing document that best describes yourself and your skills. My company needs engineers that go beyond the technical aspect, as I mentioned before, that come with being an engineer. They need to be what we call people persons. They need to be able to communicate effectively, among other things. They need to dress appropriately. They need to have good personal presentation, and they absolutely need to have confidence. In short, they need to exhibit some characteristics that many engineers don't come by naturally. My company is not unique. I would suggest to you that a large majority of companies that are out there are looking for this type of person as well, some more than others. Employers are looking for well-rounded people that can demonstrate skills that go beyond just their education. I can assure you that once you go to work for a company, your soft skills is what's going to make the difference in promotions and tenure. It is what will get you noticed by your superiors. Being that complete engineer will not only get you a leg up in getting hired, but it will set yourself apart from your peers going forward. Let's be clear. The reason why you were in engineering is to get a great education so that you can get hired by a great company, you can be successful, and you'll make money. You make money so that you can take care of yourself, a future family, maybe have a nice retirement someday. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. That's why we work. It is certainly not the only thing in life, but making money does make life easier. Remember that. So what specifics am I and other employers looking for? First of all, as I mentioned before, you're all smart. Check that box off. By the way, how many of you are self-scholars in here today? I know you are, Sydney. Just one? Congratulations. I honestly believe that is what Mr. Self had in mind.
Scholars, yeah.
What's that?
They're on the screen.
Oh, they're on that. There's more? Good. I really do believe Mr. Self had in mind when he endowed the program all those years ago that he was interested in having students do something more than just engineering. You can be academically, this can be academically or with community service or just listening to industry speakers. I don't know everything that goes into the SELF program, but I do believe that's what Mr. Self had in mind when he started that program. He wanted students to be more of a complete engineer. So let's get back to what I'm looking for personally when I'm hiring someone. Let's imagine a scenario that I'm trying to fill an engineering position within my company. I get resumes from different sources, and then I'll do a first pass. My company's small enough that I get involved in those hiring decisions. I get resumes from different sources, and then I do a first pass to look over the candidates, and using my best judgment, I try to screen that down to, 4, 5, 6 different people that I want to interview. That's where that good resume thing comes in handy. By the way, these interviews that I'm talking about, I know maybe you all, it's been strange the last 2.5 years with COVID. I get that. Virtual interviews in my book are, I wouldn't call them worthless, but I think they're not fair to the employer or to the interviewee. I want someone in my office, I want to look at them, I want them to look at me, I want to have a conversation. You can't, yes, you can do that over Zoom, but you don't get everything there. So I think that a virtual interview, and like I said, it's not worthless, but I hope that in the future we get away from virtual interviews and virtual everything. I want to see the candidates live so I can make decisions based more, other than academics. Again, I want to see a complete person. So what makes a complete person, a complete engineer? I group these traits into 3 separate buckets. I'll say physical presentation, behavior, and extracurricular. So what makes up the first bucket of physical presentation? I'm not talking about gender, ethnicity, height, weight. I'm talking more about your presentation as a person. And how does that presentation start? With an introduction. These skills that I'm talking about, they are 100% transferable in life and adulting, which is one of my favorite new words. But these skills, it goes beyond just interviews. This is life stuff. So what do I talk about with a introduction? So what are we doing here? We're looking each other in the eye. What's your name, Milton?
I'm Ian.
Ian what?
McFerrin.
McFerrin. Nice to meet you, Ian.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Tim McFerrin.
Timothy McFerrin.
Nice to meet you. What are we doing there? We are looking each other in the eyes. We're giving a nice, firm, not a bone crush, you don't have to have a bone crusher handshake, but it's an introduction. And the old term, first impressions are everything. I guarantee it, first impressions are everything when you're introducing yourself. You don't ever get that chance to have that back. The thing that I'm doing when I'm introducing myself, I'm trying my best, and I'm not great at this, I'm trying to remember the name. It's easy with him, I'm related to him. But I'm trying to commit that name to my memory. You know who the best person I've ever met, this is a true story. You know the best person I've ever met that can remember names? It's Bill Self. That guy, you meet him twice. Some people just once. You meet him twice, he'll remember your name. It's incredible. I don't know how he does it, because God knows how many people he meets. But he is something else. And I'd love to, I've got other friends that are great at remembering names, but you just got to remember names. I think that's a very important skill. My 2 boys here will confirm to you this story that when they were young, their mother and I we taught them, this is an important thing, to introduce themselves, to shake their hand, to look people in the eyes. And it was particularly handy because they're identical twins. My wife would actually ask them later, Ian, what was the color of Mr. Self's eyes? And they knew that they better be able to answer that. This is when they're little guys. Maybe that's the way you can do it. Think about what their eye color is. Am I telling you the truth? Boys, am I? Yeah. And another thing on this COVID deal. This fist bumping introduction, that didn't work. Social situation, sure. We're not spreading germs, it's my opinion. We're all washing our hands, we're being clean. But a proper firm handshake will never go out of style. Fist bumping, all right, whatever. But as I said before, the bone crushing grip, you don't have to do that. But don't, and I'm looking at the women in the audience. Again, don't be afraid to give a nice firm handshake. Same way with the guys. Don't be afraid to do that. People will notice that. I promise you that. Dressing for success, or what I'd like to say, dressing like a successful person, is also very important. You may call me old school, but dressing for the occasion is a very useful skill and one that really does come with experience. And this can apply to both business and personal. I'm not saying that you have to have the latest fashion or the most expensive clothes. I'm not saying that. Smart, up-to-date, and nice appearance is really what it takes. Polish your shoes sometime. Spend a few dollars, have a dress shirt or a blouse dry cleaned and pressed. Be neat. People take notice of that more than you would ever imagine. Being over or underdressed is not good in most cases. Learn what these terms are: business casual, formal, casual. Know what they mean. Have a general awareness of what different situations might require for dress. And if you have to err one way or another, my advice is to always be a little bit overdressed. Guys, you can always take off the tie. I'd have to ask my wife what she does when she's a little overdressed. You don't do anything. I keep a tie in my office. I rarely wear a tie. Funerals and weddings. But there are some occasions that a tie is required. I keep one in my office for just that situation. Don't put it on very often, and it is a Jayhawk tie, but how many of you, I got another question, how many of you wear a watch? A nice conservative watch, I'm not talking about the giant blinged up things. Watches are fine. But a nice conservative watch is a sign that you are paying attention to time. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And it keeps you from having to look at this stupid thing. I just checked the time, make sure we're not going over. But a huge gaudy watch in a business environment, probably not. But a nice, just doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be a Rolex, doesn't have to, it just tells people you're aware of time. This list of physical presentation traits can go on and on. I would include, I'm not going to go into details, but posture, personal hygiene, the volume of your voice. Being the loud talker can draw excessive attention to yourself, and not speaking loudly enough can be interpreted by people in a lot of different ways. A lot of people would think that's a lack of confidence. Have a nice presentation voice. My second bucket is behavior. And the behavior bucket can be filled with many things. However, I think the most important, and I'm going to sound old school here, I know, the most important is etiquette and manners in your everyday life. My wife often says that having good manners is like being in a secret club. You know the rules, but perhaps everyone else does not. Having good manners and etiquette is not hard, and you don't have to be perfect. However, knowing the basics is essential. And I'm not going to tell you have to go read Emily Post. That sounds really old school, or Miss Manners from front to back. That's not necessary. Most of the things I'm going to talk about today are common sense. And as many people would tell you, common sense and courtesies are unfortunately not so common anymore. I promise you that if you make it a point to just do the basics, it will get you noticed by any number of people, employers and in personal relationships alike. So what makes a person courteous and well-mannered? Let's start with the basics. How about please and thank you? Excuse me and no thank you. Holding a door open for others. Being tidy, organized. Cleaning up after yourself. Don't lie or cheat or take things that are not yours. Sharing. Apologizing when it is appropriate to do so. Respecting others and not talking behind other people's back. Asking questions about other people versus talking about yourself the entire time. I can honestly say that if everyone just paid attention to these basic details, the world would be such a better place. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, these are not hard things. These are not hard concepts. You'd be amazed as to how few people regularly practice a lot of those traits. Set yourself apart and concentrate on these things, and you'll be surprised as to how far it can get you. That golden rule of do unto others is a lot of common sense there. Good manners and etiquette also extend to table manners. Knowing the basics, silverware usage, napkins, chewing with your mouth closed. There's so many other table manners that will get you noticed, and I can assure you it will get you noticed for all the wrong reasons by plenty of people if you don't have those good manners. Learn them and live them. It will serve you well. We talked about watch earlier. To me, timeliness and scheduling is one of the most important things you will ever learn. Don't be late. Show up on time, and if at all possible, be early. It's respectful to the person you're meeting with. Anyone know who Vince Lombardi is? Surely some people know who Vince Lombardi is, right? He was the legendary coach of the Green Bay Packers back in the early days. His name is on the Super Bowl trophy. It's called the Lombardi Trophy. Coach Lombardi had a concept that he called Lombardi time. This is the amount of time that you show up before you're actually supposed to be there. If your appointment is at 3 o'clock and you show up at 2:45, you have 15 minutes of Lombardi time. Why would you do this? And when you're in business, you can use that time to just settle your nerves, prepare one last presentation, go over it, use the restroom. Giving yourself that cushion is not only smart, it makes an impression on people. Don't be late. Etiquette, of course, extends to the mobile phones and social media. These things are a curse and a blessing. You know, if one of you pulled out your phone while I'm talking, well, how would I interpret that? You're probably not interested in anything I'm talking about. It's always nice to turn your ringer off. We call it stun the phaser. Having your phone go off at the inappropriate times is never a good look. Like I said, in business meetings, there is nothing worse than seeing a phone pulled out at the inappropriate times. It's just signaling to people you're not interested, or you're bored, or you don't care what that other person is saying. If you have to take a call during a meeting, and no one wants to hear your latest ringtone, I can assure you of that. I've actually been in meetings where the organizer, he sets the rule that if your phone goes off during his meeting, you're making a donation to his charity of choice for about 20 bucks. I've been in several meetings like that. That's probably a little over the top, but you get the point. That social media presence thing is also a gotcha. You know, I grew up when we didn't have Facebook or Snap or Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or any of the, whatever the latest social media platform is. I shudder to think what behaviors I put out there. Thankfully, there wasn't a video camera or things that I posted. I don't want that part of my permanent record, and you shouldn't either. You should think about this every time you start posting something, because I guarantee you that prospective employers are stalking you. I do have a Facebook account, but it's not my name. I gotta tell you what it is. But that's how I can go and look and see what idiocy is out there. If I'm interviewing these people, I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm not saying just don't post the stupid stuff. You may never know why you didn't get a chance to interview for that really great job you desperately wanted. Someone could have canceled you simply by looking at your Facebook or Insta page. You'll never know it. I promise that happens. It's so difficult to overcome things from your past that could be viewed as controversial. What might have been socially acceptable when you were a junior at KU might be totally unacceptable 3 years later. That's the world we live in. Getting a job or a promotion is hard enough. Don't handicap yourself from the start by just exhibiting behavior that you thought was really cool when you were 20, but might be embarrassing or illegal when you're out in the real world. I'm going to skip that one. Finally, with regards to behavior, I want to emphasize something that may get you ahead faster than any other concept I've talked about. That is always working hard, being a team player, don't be the last to show up and the first one to leave, pay attention to schedules, respect your peers, be humble, give credit where credit is due, and I emphasize always, do more than is expected of you. I just read a quote recently. Everyone knows who Mark Cuban is. He's a pretty intelligent guy. Mark Cuban said, "Work like there is someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you." That kind of sounds like Mark Cuban. There's always going to be someone out there who's willing to work harder than you, so you should always give it your best effort. That mentality will keep you on your toes and will ultimately help you grow. You do these things, your chance for success goes way up. My third and last bucket is extracurricular. What do I mean by that? Well, who's heard the phrase, and this is old school again, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy? That's pretty self-explanatory. So how does this fit into the complete engineer concept? Having interests and activities outside of school and work makes you a more complete person. It's good for your mental health. It can be good for your physical health. It certainly promotes teamwork and friendship. You know, most of all of us, we do have to work in our life. There's probably some people out there that haven't had to, but that's not very often. Participating in things outside of everyday work is good for the soul. It can be organized team sports, religious activities of your choice, volunteering for causes that are important to you, or just socializing with friends watching a basketball game. Don't be that person that works and then goes home, hops on your video game, and has very little social interaction. I understand that video games do provide some level of interaction, but it's not a substitute for human interaction. And we are built for human interaction. It clears the mind, and it gives you the best chance to be a student or an employee you can be. It certainly helps in preventing burnout. My motto in life is work hard, play hard, and do most anything in moderation. You live by that, and you'll be a happier person. So, I've said a lot this afternoon. I realize that much of what I've said is probably something you've heard from others, probably your parents. But I really want to emphasize that so many of these actions and concepts, they never go out of style. Yeah, times change, and there are new social norms every day. I think, to me, tattoos are a perfect example. I don't have any tattoos. I have employees that have tattoos. Now, if you have a neck tat, full sleeves and gauges in ears, I'm probably not going to hire you. A lot of other people won't either. Anything in moderation. If you have a basic awareness and practice much of what I have talked about today, and couple that with a world-class education you're getting here at KU, your upside is unlimited. There are, I call these people, there are plenty of engineers, maybe not plenty, but there are some in this world that I would call a super engineer. They're so smart, they're so talented, but they are perhaps limited on some of the more basic interpersonal skills. My thought on this is we thankfully have those people because they either have or will invent something. They'll have the skills or will invent something that will be hugely beneficial in my life and others. They may not have an appreciation for the more social parts of life. That's fine. That's not me. I knew early on that a career in traditional engineering was not where I belonged. I love technology, and I enjoy reading about the latest and greatest. For me to have that kind of career was not possible. I had to play to my strengths, and those were outside of the traditional engineering discipline. The world is full of these types of people. They have done great things running companies. I mean, you look at the Forbes 500 list or whatever they call that, the amount of CEOs in this company, in this world, in this country, the number of CEOs that are engineering undergrad, it's amazing. People have done great things running companies. One of my best friends in Tulsa, he's a double E, he's a neurosurgeon, KU Med. Several of the guys that I went to college with in double E, they're patent attorneys now. The world is unlimited. Engineering school teaches you how to think, how to solve problems. You can apply that to anything. Again, we have these great engineers that have vision that can design and implement and do things that are just extraordinary. But there's a lot of things you can do outside of just a traditional engineering discipline. My message to each of you is to know what your strengths are and embrace them. You also need to identify what your weaknesses are, and you need to work on those every day to overcome them. For those of you that are not as adept at some of the things I talked about today, get out of your comfort zone, and you have no idea what may be in store for you. For those of you who are comfortable in your own skin, work on these skills. Perfect them. You'll be happy you did. You don't leave college fully prepared for what is in the adult world. 33 years ago, I wasn't the best public speaker, and I'm still not great. But I learned to be comfortable with it. There are plenty of people that are better than me, but I can get by. I can stand up here and talk to a group. I do that in work. I do that in my job all the time. I would encourage you to work on that skill. And perhaps someday you can even come back and address students and give a speech on what you feel is an important topic. At the end of the day, it does take all types. No one type is better than the other. Always look to improve yourself and keep learning. Invest in yourself, as all of these things I spoke today. These things don't cost money. Invest in yourself. I promise that you can be more of a complete engineer. Doing that, you're going to be better for you, your employer, and your family. And that's really what it's all about. Another thing is, a friend of mine sent me this afternoon. Always remember that in the real world, there are times when people don't want to know or don't have the time to understand how the light bulb works. They want to know that it will work. And don't get your feelings hurt when that happens. I think that's pretty good advice. Again, everyone in this room is smart. I do envy every one of you in this room. I think about it in another life. I can come back to KU and be a college student once again, because it is the best time of your life. I promise. Adulting's not bad. College is fun. Have fun. But you know, if I did come back, I hopefully will know more than what I knew the first time around. So, thanks again for listening. Did I do right?
Yep.
30 minutes? 35 minutes?
Somewhere in there.
Enjoy this week. Rock chalk.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Tim. We'll take questions. Just one comment. So earlier on, you were talking about what's appropriate dress, what should I wear, and you mentioned having a tie in your office. So coming over here today, it's like, what should I wear? Well, this is an event. Okay, I should put on a coat, nice shirt. Do I wear a tie? I thought, it's late afternoon, it's a voluntary thing. Probably not, but I don't really know Tim, and maybe Tim's more formal than I think, and maybe he's... So back there in the back of my bag, there's a tie. I was going to slip out and go to the restroom and put it on if I needed it, but you know, that's just part of it.
You want to know something, Bob?
Yeah?
I got a tie in my car. Because I didn't know if Dean or you would be wearing a tie.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, you don't want, the whole idea is you don't want to stand out for one way or another. But it's true, I got a tie in my car.
Yeah. So there we go. All right, who's got a question?
Do you have any advice when you're making your resume, how to balance like engineering stuff, but also show off those extra activities that you can like prove that you're a more resourceful person?
You know, I honestly, you know, resumes can be too long. Resumes can absolutely be, you know, when you get the 4-page CV that's everything from dog, you know, house sitter to dog watcher, fire, whatever. You've got to, the farther you get along in your career, the less they're going to worry about what your college GPA and what you did in college. Is that important at the beginning to have those types of things? Sure. But I do think that the more you can, again, people know you're smart, you're an engineer. I think personally, I like to see those extracurricular activities, as much emphasis, if not more, on that, because I'm trying to hire that complete person. That may not be if you were going to work for the Department of Defense at, you know, at Sandia Labs or whatever it is. But in my opinion, giving that total picture of yourself is absolutely, you got to do it. Again, I'm not perfect at writing resumes, never was. There's plenty of people, there's plenty of resources that are out there that can tell you about that. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but what's that? Oh, that's a good. When I was in college, I had done a lot of internships during the summer. The last summer that I, before my 5th year, I went to work out in Colorado, out in Vail. Didn't have a job, couple buddies and I went out there. I got a job in a liquor store. And the guy asked me I had a resume, I had a resume and all this, I'm an electrical engineer. The guy hands me a Big Chief tablet. You probably don't even know what a Big Chief tablet is, but it's just an old style notebook and a crayon. And the guy says, tell me about yourself. And I said, well, I'm an electrical engineering student, University of Kansas, love to ski. The guy says, you're an electrical, this is back in the day when PC, it was an Apple IIe. He says, can you install software? I said, yep. He says, you're hired. I was selling liquor. And then when I got to my real job, when I interviewed for the first time in my real job, I put that on my resume. I worked at Peregrine Wines and Liquor in Vail, Colorado. The gentleman that hired me, he didn't care about anything that I had done from an internship standpoint. He wanted to know how I like selling, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. And he asked me a question. He says, how'd you like that selling? Got my job. So.
Yeah, so you said so your first job was like a sales kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know you wanted to go into like that kind of role instead of going to more like traditional like technical route?
I think it was more, I knew what I didn't want to do. So when I had graduated, I had, it would have been the worst mistake of my life. I had thought about going to get an MBA. In my family, a lot of people in my family, a lot of my dad, my stepdad, uncles, they were all entrepreneurs. So I kind of had that in my blood. I knew that engineering was a means to an end. So going to work for a technical company, I actually had an interview with a company called Intergraph, which is down in Huntsville, Alabama. They since got bought by, they were doing modeling software. And I just couldn't see myself doing that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was when you don't know what you're gonna do, you stay in school, right? So I remember going outside, we didn't have the internet at that day, so there was a job posting outside the dean's office, or the placement office, and it was for a sales engineer. What in the world is a sales engineer? It was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, not far from where I grew up. I had met her. I didn't want to go to Huntsville. I just met her. And so I called this guy, and I didn't know what a sales engineer was. But he came up to Lawrence. We had an interview at Perkins, still there. And he told me what a sales engineer was. I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And I thought, you know what, if I didn't like it, I'm 4 hours from Lawrence, give it 2 years. If I don't like it, I'll do something else. 33 years later, I didn't know it at the time, but it was the opportunity of a lifetime. So back to your question, how did I know? I just knew what I didn't want to do. And that's really where it started. So that thing about knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, I knew what my weakness was. I wasn't cut out to be that hardcore engineer. So.
Other questions?
Come on, Sydney, what do you want? What do you want to know?
I guess 33 years is a long time. Why did you stay with the company so long and not go in another direction?
It really had to do with my company, my boss, really took care of me. I worked in Tulsa for a year, and as I said, I'd met Cynthia. She was working in Kansas City, and I told my boss, I said, you know, if there was ever an opportunity to go to work in Kansas City in the office there, I'd be interested in doing that. 2 months later, I'm there. And that was just one of the first times that he took care of me. And what it goes back for me, he was very fair to his employees. He took care of us like family. And that's what I try to do with my employees now, because, you know, if you provide, the people that work for my company, I've got guys that are there that 25, 30 years as well. And they don't stay there by accident. There's all sorts of opportunities out there. But if you take care of people, and that's not just money, flexibility, your scheduling, your opportunity to grow, culture, all those things, I try to do that in my company. And that's why we have tremendous tenure. So that's the reason why I stayed. And then, oh, well, we had a guy quit our company, and he had a fairly high salary. This was at the end of last year, and I took that salary that I could have, as the owner of the company, I could have put that to the bottom line and made more money. But I divided that up between all of my employees. I gave them each about a 15% raise. And then we also increased their time, their vacation times. You know, in the real world, you get usually 2 weeks after a year, or 2 years, and 3 weeks after 5 years. And we bumped that to where they have all this extra time off. We also did, for our hourly workers, we went to what's called a 9/80 schedule, which means they work 9 hour days and they get the 10th day off. So they get an 80-hour workday, or 80 hours over 2 weeks. So they get every other Friday off. They get 26 extra days off. And I mean, it's the little things. It's all about quality of life. If COVID taught us anything, it's quality of life. So not every employer does that, but I think by offering that, that's those types of things. That's why I have, I don't know how many, 400 years of tenure in my company, over 25 people, something like that. It's a lot. Anyone want to come work?
One more question. Let's see.
Right there. Come on. How about the other one? What? How are the cats? They're fine. Well, again, I really appreciate you all coming and listening today. I hope you took something away from it. I'm pretty passionate about this. And I like to see people succeed. And this is a pretty easy way for you to put yourself above someone. Because not everyone, again, I could give this presentation to everyone on this campus and a lot of adults. Just think about these things. It's not hard. It doesn't cost you any money to have good manners, to be nice. It just doesn't. And you'll do yourself a favor. So, thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone online. We appreciate your attendance and participation, and we look forward to seeing you for our next lecture in the fall. Have a great evening.
Thank you.